Types of data. In your study of A-level psychology, you need to be aware of the different types of data that can be collected, how they're analysed, and also the relative strengths and weaknesses of all these different types of data. Primary data, as the name suggests, is data that's collected first-hand by the researcher. Secondary data is data that already exists. So, for example, official statistics. When we carry out a content analysis, it's secondary data that we're analysing because it's something that's already out there. Data can also come in the form of quantitative, which is numerical data. A handy tip to remember this is quantitative has an N in the middle of it, N for numbers. Qualitative is descriptive data, so data in the form of words. And a handy way to remember that is qualitative has an L in the middle for letters. With quantitative data, in order to be able to analyse it using inferential statistics, we also need to be aware of levels of data. The lowest level of data is nominal data, which is frequency data. It's putting data into categories. So, for example, percentages. So you might have an example of the number of students in a class who have blue eyes, brown eyes, or green eyes. They'd be categorised as blue, brown, green. Of 100 people, 40 recycle rubbish, while 60 do not recycle rubbish. That would be categorical data, nominal data. So it's important to note that the numbers do not stand for amounts or distances on a scale. They're simply frequencies, and there are no individual scores for each participant. And we'd usually display nominal data in a pie chart or a bar chart, so discrete categories. I'm sure when you were in year 7, you probably did a bar chart in your maths class where your maths teacher asked you how people got to school. So how many walked, how many came on the bus, how many cycled. That's a really clear example of nominal data. The next level up is ordinal data. And as the name suggests, ordinal, it's data that's been placed into rank order. So first, second, third, etc. So if you think about a running race, in a 100-metre sprint, the winner is placed first, the next runner is second, and so on. And it doesn't matter what the gap is between the runners, they're still first, second, third. Another thing to note is interval or ratio data that I'm going to discuss on the next slide can be converted to ordinal data for the purpose of inferential testing if the data does not meet the requirements for a parametric test. We convert it to ordinal data so that we can then carry out a non-parametric test. The final level of data is interval data and ratio data. So interval and ratio data are a level of measurement where units of equal measurements are on the scale. So if you think about a measuring tape or a ruler, the gap between 1 and 2 centimetres is exactly the same as the gap between 25 and 26 centimetres. 1 centimetre is of equal distance. So things could be like minutes, kilograms, number of words recorded in a memory test, percentage score in an exam, etc. The difference between interval and ratio is still data on the scale with equal increments, but it has a true zero. You can't have a minus number. So things like weight, height, time, and distance. However, if you're studying AQA, A-level psychology, you don't need to worry about ratio. You only need to know about interval. One thing we can do, as I've mentioned before, sometimes it's necessary to convert data for the purpose of testing. So let's have a look at a worked example using a swimming race. So in this race, each participant is given a time, how long it takes them to swim the required distance. And that would be interval data because each increment on the scale is 1 second. So clear interval data. What we then do, of course, is convert this to ordinal data. Who was the fastest? Who came first? Who came second? Who came third? Etc. And finally, if we wanted, we could convert it to nominal data by categorising the swimmers into time groups. So how many completed the race in under a minute, for example, how many completed it between a minute and 2 minutes. So then we'd have nominal data. Thank you for listening, and I hope that's helped your understanding of data in psychology.